Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So, I've been talking about it since pretty much the initial videos of the channel. Um, we are going to be doing the Thronebreaker push, as well as we'll start doing the Cavalier push on the backup account, but our main focus right now is the Thronebreaker push on the primary account. We're going to start off right off the bat with 6.2.2. Um, right here, I have a list of champions that are very usable for 6.2.2. The two things that you need to take into consideration to get through this primarily is first off, there is an incinerate debuff that goes on to any champion after 5 crits in any one fight. That is where the incinerate immune list comes from. Uh, we got Apocalypse, Anti-Venom, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Colossus, quite a few down the list. Some of the very notable ones, obviously, are going to be Iceman, Kitty Pryde, Penny Parker, Red Hulk, and Void, on top of the ones I've already mentioned. But feel free to pause the video. I'll also have a link to this spreadsheet in the description. All of these champions will get you through the majority of the fights that you need to be facing to get to the boss. Okay. The other side of the coin that you need to be looking at for this is that boss fight. Mr. Sinister, in this particular progression of title, is considered amongst the community one of the harder fights that you're going to have to deal with, partially because of the fact that you cannot even do damage to him unless your champion has a fury buff. Now, that list is quite a bit longer. What is this? Over 80 champions that all have some ability to do a fury buff, and that's not even counting somebody like a Loki or a Purgatory who could steal the buff to give it to themselves. So that list is quite a bit longer, and not all of them are going to be champions, obviously, that you're going to want to use. Obviously, Groot versus Mr. Sinister is not going to get you very far. The other list that I do have here included in is the Shrug Off list. These are champions that have the natural ability to shrug off debuffs. You got Aegon Ghost, Agent Venom, Kingpin, Korg, Shang-Chi, Black Panther, Hitmonkey, Mr. Sinister himself, Squirrel Girl, Captain America, Infinity War, Nick Fury, Crossbones, Jabari Panther, Elsa Bloodstone, and the Hawkeye Ronin. So, some of those champions you're seeing on both of these lists. Now, that does give you quite a bit to work with there. That does give you the ability to look at forming a team out of these. What I ended up going with for this was I brought in 3 Incinerate Immune champions and 2 Fury champions to go ahead and make sure that I had Mr. Sinister more than covered. I'm going to talk about that a little bit further as we get into the gameplay and actually look at what all I did in this match. So let's go ahead and switch over there real quick. Let's start off here by looking at the team that I brought in. Like I said, I brought in Apocalypse, Colossus, and Iceman, all as Incinerate Immune champions. Okay. Part of the reason I went with those 3 is because of the fact that not only do they have the incinerate immunity on all 3 of them, but of course with the Apocalypse synergy, as well as his giving him the ability to horseman either Colossus or Iceman. Um, Obviously, he can horseman himself as well. But I did end up bringing in my 5-star Iceman as opposed to my 6-star because of the fact that he is awakened and Sig 200. So if I had chosen to horseman him, I felt like he would get the bigger benefit over Colossus, especially with him being unawakened. Uh, but in my haste, I ended up making the choice to horseman Colossus, and he does do a lot of the work for us. Now I'm going to talk about a couple mistakes I made throughout the gameplay here. There were, and that being said, I did get through the entire level. We did go ahead and get this knocked out, and we're going to go ahead and look at most of the fights, or at least a portion of them. Obviously, I'm going to show you the entire Mr. Sinister fight, but just to reference, in total, I did end up going through I ended up going through 12 revives, a few of which were a complete and total waste. We had no reason to use those. And then I also used 6 love juice as well, um, all of which for the last 2 fights, the Emma Frost and the Mr. Sinister fight. Not necessarily needed, but they were that little extra boost just to go ahead and make sure that we got through. So, also, on the other hand of this, I mentioned that I wanted the Fury champions in there. That's where obviously Nick Fury himself is a great one. He also has a shrug off ability that I mentioned earlier, which gives him the ability to shrug off the incinerate if I had needed to bring him in. But between him and Captain Marvel movie, they both have the ability to Fury. Um, Nick Fury's Fury is an indefinite one once he gets rid of the life model decoy, and Captain Marvel movies is based off of when she ignites her binary charges. Um, the synergy between the two of them actually makes the Fury last longer, so that not only with the fact that these are 2 champions that I use on a very regular basis myself personally, and that I knew would synergize well, I felt like this was my solid team to go ahead and walk us through this. And I think, honestly, like I said, I fully believe that there were a couple things that I made mistakes on here that we could have actually brought that potion count down and that revive count down. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys, and watch and I'll take you through what all happened here. So we did go ahead right off the bat. We took the path to the far right. Um, and this path actually leads us over to a couple options here. What we're going to do is we're going to continue on the right and then downward from there. We started off right off the bat with the Punisher 2099 fight. Okay, so looking at right off the bat here, let's look at the nodes. Like I said here, this is where the Incinerate immune champions are going to come in big time here because of the fact that, as I said, this backblast, anytime that you activate multiple of those crit hits, as a matter of fact, it's 4 or more that will activate an incinerate debuff on your champion. So this is where it was crucial, knowing that this is going to follow us all the way through this, to have Colossus, Iceman, and Apocalypse in place so that we could get through any of those champions, and we had a few options to use to get through it here. You're also outside of that, it's going to be your normal based. Nothing else too extensive to look at here until we get to the Mr. Sinister fight. The backblast is the only thing that you really need to worry about, especially on this path that I'm going to take here. Now, I will fully admit that this was one of the first fights right off the bat that I made a mistake on. I was looking at kind of getting my setup in place for the later parts of the fight. And instead of really thinking about what I was doing and using this and the Ultron fight as fights to help me uh, get Captain Marvel movie boosted up and get her charges in place, I wasn't thinking about how his charges work, and I started right off the bat doing the going for Apocalypse's charges. Knowing that we needed to get those 4 charges in place, I took a few. I drug this fight out more than what I really meant to be. I wasn't thinking about the fact that he wouldn't get the charges I needed off of Punisher 2099, and definitely would not get them off of Ultron. So this would have been a better opportunity for me if I would have saved him and instead brought Captain Marvel movie in so we could have had her binary charges already in place. I do get those in place before we get to the Minister Sinister fight, but even with that being said, you could see I highlighted it just so that you guys didn't have to watch the entire fight, especially with me going down once already. Um, I went down once with Apocalypse, revived him in, went for those charges, and still ended up having to use the Storm Relic to keep me alive right there at the end so that we could pull it out, and didn't even get the charges that we were looking for here. So from here, like I said, we do go ahead and take the down path, and we go directly into the Ultron fight. Again, this would have been just in case we didn't get enough charges right off the bat uh, with Apocalypse. This would have, or I mean, with Captain Marvel movie, it would have been a good opportunity to bring her in, anyways. I did bring her in, but the problem is that in the process of this, and you'll see this as we go on, I did catch a couple hits directly to the face on this. And in the process of that, not only did I build up my charges, but I let him activate those charges on me, and I burnt through them instead of banking them for the later fight like I was planning. So we do end up having to bring her back in for a later fight towards the end. That way she's prepped and ready for Mr. Sinister, because she does the initial work for us in that fight. As you can see here, like I said, I brought her back. I cut out part of that there so that we didn't go through the monotony of it. But she did do her damage. I again brought Apocalypse in, looking for those charges, not remembering the fact that he does not receive any charges from robotic champions. Obviously, Ultron being the biggest robot of them all, um, not size-wise, obviously, that would go to Sentinel, but we weren't going to get the charges that I was looking for here. So I did go ahead, we carried out this fight, made sure we got a few things going here, got it going in our direction. This one was a harder fought fight. Like I said, this is one of the ones that we used a couple revives on. So if I'd been a little smarter about it, gotten a little bit better consistency with my parries and my dexes, I could have pulled off this one with less than what we ended up going through here. But I wanted to go ahead and highlight a few of the mistakes and everything to point out that, even when you plan these fights out and you think about what you're going to do in the moment of doing them, you still have to really take that time and make sure your strategy continues out the way you want it. Like I said, we did go ahead and finish off Ultron. It came really close there in this Apocalypse fight. Again, the Storm Relic did help us out there, obviously knocking down that regen for us. X23 here, I came in with Apocalypse right off the bat so that I could get his final two charges. Went ahead and did a little bit of damage on her, but what we're going to do here is we're going to end up bank and letting going down to her, and then we will revive, and this is where Colossus takes over from here. Like I said, if I had been sticking to my original strategy, I would have probably went with Iceman for the majority of my fights. But instead, like I said, I went ahead and went with Colossus. This is where you'll see me go ahead and horseman him, and from here, he does end up finishing X-23 for us. I do think that I we'll have to watch this a little closer, but I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I got her right to the end and I slipped up. Uh, as we get through this here, let's go ahead and look and see how that goes if I remember right. This was a little hard start here. Instead of going for some of the moves I knew I should have, I slipped up a few times here. I know very well that if I would have been doing this consistently the way I should have been, uh, you know, parry heavy, repeat, get it built up to the special two, and then obviously off the special two damage, we could have walked through her a lot faster. Especially with that regen that she has, because that is something that we were struggling a little bit against. As you can see there, like I said, I pointed out a little bit of the struggle there. We did revive and come back in. What ended up costing me that match is I slipped up going for a special two and timed it just wrong, and ended up landing a special one that she ended up absorbing most of, and come back and recoiled onto me and took me out right before I could have finished that last hit. It was just poor timing on that. We should have been able to finish her off in one go. But it does set us up for a little bit more on the Old Man Logan fight here. Now, one of the things I want you to take notice of here is the Bane node. When you get to Old Man Logan here. So you can see here on a couple occasions I slip up and let him get it transferred over to me because I'm not timing things properly. This is where I think Iceman would have been a little more solid to have chose for my horseman for this, because like right here, obviously we take the special three to the face, but there is another point that you're gonna see here coming up where I go to do a special one to transfer it, but Colossus's special one is kind of a slower one. There's a little bit of a draw out between the first punch of it and when he comes back around. So right there, you can see it. I took quite a bit of damage that on a faster special one, or something that was any other, I could have transferred that back to him and not have wasted the extra revive here. We are going to go ahead and get it transferred this time. That's not a problem. It goes through pretty easy, pretty quickly. We finish up the fight and get on our way to the next one. So you can see here I did a little better about keeping the degen from the Bane transferred onto him, but there were still a couple of times, like I said, that I slipped up and lost a little out of that. I really didn't. I didn't end up using Iceman whatsoever throughout this entire thing. So I could have brought in Kitty for the better synergy if I was going to run Colossus the whole time, or there's a couple other options that we could have used that would have made sure that we took a little bit less, and that Colossus, if he was going to do all the work like I ended up having to do, would have had a little easier time at it. That was another one of those things that I just, wasn't thinking about the fact of uh, which one of the two of them I was definitely going to horseman. Like I said, I did bring in Captain Marvel movie here. I specifically brought her in this fight to get those binary charges up. Now I get him most of the way down, and I've got and I slipped up, and when I slipped up, he activated my binary charges, and that's why I ended up letting myself die here and coming back in to do the parts of the fight that you're seeing right now, because I wanted to draw it out a little bit further, and I knew, especially with his regen and everything, I could draw this out far enough if I played a little smarter to get myself to the point of 22 charges. The biggest thing about that being that immediately when I go into the Sinister fight, I can fire off that special one and immediately go to indestructible, as well as having that fury that I need to be able to do damage to him. So as you can see here, we finished off that fight with 21 charges, or 22 charges. That's going to come into play here shortly. We're going to go ahead and teleport over here. This leaves us with two fights left. The Emma Frost fight, which on the Emma Frost fight, I did end up using a couple love juice right off the bat on Colossus. Kind of give him a little better chance of getting that taken care, getting through Emma Frost right off the bat. It did not completely work out for me. I did end up reviving two times against her before I finished her off. I could have probably went ahead and saved those revives and just brought in Iceman or Apocalypse to do the rest of the fight. But like I said, I kind of locked in on Colossus and just rode his horseman abilities all the way to Mr. Sinister, whereas at that point, none of them were going to be viable anymore. We were going to be looking at how much we needed consistent fury, and we just weren't going to get that. Now, one of the things about Emma, and I know this is something that most people have gotten over by this point in time, but that inverted controls, even though it only lasts for a few seconds, more often than not, when I get caught by one of her specials and get that on me, I'll end up, just for the one action that I need to make sure that I do properly, I'll end up half the time screwing it up and end up getting caught because either I block when I mean to attack, or I attack when I mean to block. Um, so it is definitely one of those things. You can see here we've already got her most of the way down, got hit by the inverted controls, and I screw up there, and instead of getting Storm in there so I could finish her, I let her catch me. So, like I said, I did end up reviving a couple times on this. You're seeing this final time here, where by the time we come back in, or that was right before the final time, where we at least used Storm a little better than we did the first time, and got all but finishing Emma off. Again, I could have saved on the revives here if I would have just not even bothered to revive and taken in Iceman and or Apocalypse to get that last 20,000 points off of her. which I do feel we would 100% easily finish that off. It was more so just my own stubbornness of Colossus was my workhorse, and I was going to ride him all the way to the boss. Um, but as you can see here, guys, even off of a few mistakes, like I said, I used less, 12 revives and 6 potions, of which we could have probably easily, due to a few mistakes and whatnot, reduced that down to maybe 3 potions and 6 revives. Um, if we would have had a little better gameplay, obviously, ideal gameplay, we would have had um, no need for any of them whatsoever. But I'm not perfect. I don't plan on being perfect, and the channel ain't about being perfect. So I'm going to be honest with you. This was definitely a revive session. You saw there, you get that node right off the bat, right before you get to Mr. Sinister, where you have the option to go ahead and uh, swap out champions. I did really seriously think about that at that moment. I thought about maybe swapping out Iceman or even Colossus um, for another Fury champion, but I felt pretty confident in the idea that I could finish him off easily enough with Captain Marvel movie, and even if she didn't pull it off, then we would just turn around and bring Nick Fury in, and I was sure that Fury could more than handle it on his own. As you can see here, we got some pretty sizable numbers right off the bat as soon as we got that um, binary activated. This is not going to be, a one shot by any means. We definitely did end up taking quite a few hits from him. We do get him down to, I believe, if I remember right, when I take the final hit off of him, he got me down to, or I got him down to just over 70%. And then I'm going to bring in Nick Fury to go ahead and take care of the rest. Thought about seeing if I couldn't build up enough charges here, which is why I played a little more aggressive than I should have. Maybe if I would have held her back a little more, I could have built up enough charges to make it viable to revive her. But if we weren't going to be coming in with over 20 charges, it was just more viable if we needed to do a revive to do it on Nick Fury. You're going to see here at the beginning of this match, I'm doing literally nothing to him. I'm feeding him. That's it. But the whole point of this is to build up so that I have that special 3 ready as soon as I lose the life model decoy. As you can see here, I didn't quite get it off right as the decoy went away. But we did get to it in time to go ahead and have a full activation there. Which was not necessarily enough to finish him off in the single go, but with the revive that we're about to do here, we do. I'm trying to remember. I think I just did 2 revives to finish him. I know definitely one, obviously. So we get in there right off the bat, run in. Nice thing is because we're already past the life model decoy, we've got the Fury buff the second we come back in, which is why, like I said, there was no point in even worrying about any of the other champions bringing them in. I think I kind of slipped up off this first revive, and I kind of let him control too much of the match. You can see he's being fairly aggressive or fairly passive there, where he's doing a lot more blocking, and I just wasn't catching what I wanted. Definitely, if we would have had a better, if we would have played the way we do on this second revive off of that first one, this was another opportunity that we had where we didn't need to revive. Um, but again, I was trying to make sure we were getting through this here, and we definitely make sure we do here. We're going to come in, play, let him get a little aggressive there so that we can bait him out a little bit. And we get a little bit off of him there, but we do, like I said, here comes the final finishes here. Um, I said it before. I wanted you guys to see the entirety of the Mr. Sinister fight because I think this one is the one that is the most important. I did do some edits, as you saw, on some of the other fights so that we just got more to the highlight reel of it. But giving you guys the entire, how much I went down, how many times I had to revive, which I apparently miscounted when I wrote this up. So I guess we did use 16 total revives. Um, I apologize for the miscount there. But definitely, like I said, you can see here we're going to go in. We've almost got him finished off. Nick Fury was a great option. We did have another option there that we could have brought in another champion that we could have easily gotten the Fury off of, but with how stacked my Nick Fury is, he is obviously, I mean, it's in the man's name, our Fury champion. Well, guys, that right there is 6.2.2 in the books. We got that officially taken care of, officially out of the way, and we will be starting 6.2.3 tonight. Getting that out here in the next couple days. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there was something that, if the list of champions that I provided at the beginning is definitely helpful for you. What would you have done differently? I want to thank everybody again for liking and subscribing, for commenting, for joining us for the live streams, which we will be doing more often. And I will see everybody back in the next one. Peace out.